Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day one of the SC Finance e-conference. I'm Jill Itoro, Editor-in-Chief of SC Media and Editorial Director at Cyber Risk Alliance, and I am so thrilled with the lineup we have for the next 2 days with some of the most influential leaders in financial services managing the security of systems and data. And that is certainly true of our opening speaker. So kicking things off today, joining me is Asaf Keren. He serves as Vice President of Enterprise Cybersecurity for PayPal. Asaf oversees all aspects of PayPal's security products and service delivery organization globally, providing strategic leadership for PayPal Security's first line of defense team, which builds security products, manages security infrastructure, and provides security services for the company's customer base. Asaf, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
That's great. So I'm going to kick it off with a question I'm probably going to ask everybody over the next 2 days. Lots of news has been rolling out over the course of the last few days relating to the Log4Shell issues and the vulnerability that seems to be facing many organizations right now. Can I ask you your thoughts on that? You know, has it caught your attention?
Yeah, I can imagine that everybody in the room heard about it or have worked on it over the weekend. You know, I've talked to my team on this this morning, and when I talked to them about it, that it was more of this is one for the annals of history from a security perspective. It will go down with the shell shocks and heartbleeds and specters of the world in how we look at the vulnerability footprint, and it's definitely a big one. It's a big one that we all are dealing with on an ongoing basis. And I'd like to say one thing before maybe going into some of the things that we've been doing on mitigating and as an ecosystem. I think that the way our ecosystem and community, the broader security community has reacted to this is awe-inspiring. We've seen almost in hour one vendors come and offer their services for free for organizations that were targeted. We've seen security researchers and bug bounty researchers step in and try to identify where there are vulnerable services. We've seen cloud vendors go in and say and help teams that are in their environments and outside of their environments to secure this. We've seen people like PayPal and other financial services that have been sharing information, IOCs, and ways to mitigate between different players in their fields. And that is, to me, I think the biggest thing that we'll be getting out of this vulnerability. The vulnerability will come and go. There will be impact across the board. We'll probably deal with it with the months to come as stragglers will patch or not patch, and we'll see it. But really, that strength of the community and the ecosystem and just how security professionals worldwide have stepped up is for me awe-inspiring and something that I'm very proud to be and humbled to be part of this larger community of people that are basically trying to protect our joint customers and protect the internet and the trust that we have in the internet. So not happy to see the vulnerability, not happy that it was exploited in the wild before we knew about it and that we had to deal with it as we dealt with it. Really happy to see what we're getting from a security community perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because it's about a year from when SolarWinds happened. And the coordination, I would say, is inspiring in the sense that I think the community has learned a lot in the last year, I guess you can say, for sure. So great, well, thank you for that. We are here to talk about financial services, so I will continue into it. PayPal I find interesting because it is basically the epitome of a Silicon Valley success story, really, at its core. It's going from a tech startup to a tech giant, among the biggest, in fact. But what's also interesting here is that PayPal is a financial services company, and it's serving one of the most highly regulated and frankly risk-averse sectors out there. So when you look at it, how typical is it to kick it off and just kind of set the stage of the kind of company PayPal is? How typical is it for startups to focus on what best can be described as a pretty conservative market? Is PayPal an outlier in that sense in the Silicon Valley arena?
I'm not sure that PayPal is an outlier. We see a lot of different players in the financial services industry. We see a lot of startups that are trying to disrupt especially in the last few years, are trying to disrupt the financial scene. Especially if you think about some things that we've been seeing in the recent years, all the action and innovation that is happening around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And the regulation that is now catching up. And while there might not be a lot of regulation in that space, it's coming, and it's coming pretty aggressively across the board. So I don't think PayPal is an outlier. I think PayPal is probably a good example on how to build a business and understand that business is regulated, and I call us hyper-regulated in places. We are operating 200 different markets, and each one of them has its own expectations from a regulatory perspective, and how to build a successful and sustaining business within that regulatory environment. And I hope we are a beacon for all of those startups that are trying to innovate right now, say, I would like to be like PayPal when I grow up. And some of them might want to be beat PayPal when they grow up, which is great. I think competition makes us better. So I'm happy to see all of the innovation that is happening in this field.
Yeah, I would say PayPal was among the first in the space, but there's been certainly, like you said, more that have come in the last couple of years. So if you were to talk to the leadership team at PayPal, would they describe themselves as a tech company or as a financial services company?
I think we are in an interesting place where it depends on the day and depends on the leader. You'll get a different answer. I think we're both a technology company and a financial services company. And at the heart, we're a fintech, and we pride ourselves with the technology talent that we have and the innovation that is happening across the board and on a daily basis to get us to better places. But we also have the needs and the structure for a financial services organization. Again, going back to regulatory, but all the structures in place to manage compliance and manage the different certifications that we need, and do that in a way that is thoughtful and is protecting our business and our customers and making sure that we're treating them right. So it's an interesting question in the sense that I don't have an answer for you. I think we look at things differently, and different teams look at things differently, and that's part of the joy of working for the company. You get to play different roles in a day. I get to have a financial conversation about how we manage funds and what are the risks to that, and then I get to have a technology conversation about how are we accelerating one of our new initiatives.
Yeah. Well, and all of this is tied to basically that dynamic of innovation versus security, or including security. And it depends on how you look at it. So, I think the most innovative companies are really pushing the envelope in terms of tech development. And the key there for you as a CISO in the organization is to not introduce risk as that innovation is really, getting pushed forward to serve the customer. So how do companies ensure that how do you ensure that security doesn't get lost amid the vision, the vision to serve that customer and really advance technology along the way?
So look, I'm fortunate enough, and I say this really because I have had a good chance to talk to a lot of different security leaders within my industry and outside of my industry in the last few years. And it always about, the initial conversation is always about how do you educate the board, or how do you educate leadership that security is important. And I'm fortunate enough to sit in a place where security is generally the top priority for the company. When you think about the brand promise that PayPal has, we have a brand promise of trust and security. And we've had that since the inception of the company. And security in that promise of trust that we have, security really has a major role to play in fulfilling that for 460 million customers that we have and counting. I don't have the latest numbers. And if you look at some of the history that this company has, we were one of the first companies to ever have a professional or commercial capture solution. And we were one of the first companies that did mutual TLS authentication in our production environments. And I didn't have anything to do with it. This is PayPal pre-eBay days, not post-eBay, pre-eBay. This was a big priority. And I think that we are all standing on the shoulders of some of the principles that were laid down by our founders back then, and it has only grown since then. So on question number one, it's easy for me to talk about security and the importance of security because everybody in the company really gets it. And we've really seen that when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, or probably hit before that, but as we've started shifting away from offices and working from home, we keep saying we moved from 67 offices to 50,000 offices. We've seen that security was the number one priority. So in that process, we actually needed to break down the perimeter that we had. And everybody says the perimeter is dead, but the perimeter really died on March 2020. And start shifting new security capabilities to allow people to work from home. And we created friction as part of that. And that wasn't good friction. And we're sorry for that. And we've had a lot of conversations about how to make that better. But it was taken with love, with the understanding that we must protect our customers.
And the friction, just to interrupt you, was with your employees or with
employees. With our employees, definitely. I used to have a manager in the past that said that security is one divided by productivity. And I think it's a notion that a lot of security practitioners still feel is correct. But I had the good fortune of being a product manager for a bit in my career. And I think that brought in a new view into how I think about the world. Security cannot be one divided by productivity. It actually impacts the efficacy of our controls if that's the case, because if we impact productivity, people will find a way to go around our controls, and actually it makes it riskier for us. So I have a calling now in talking to security people, and this is a good place to say that user experience and product management practices have got to be part of our security processes, understanding how the users operate. And that's when we talk about how security stifles innovation, it stifles innovation that way. When we don't think about user experience, that's when we do that. I also think security has a room to play with accelerating innovation. There are a lot of things that we as security people know more than other people. We are very good data analysts in the core of how we operate. And we can give back to our companies and innovate in areas that help other people as well. And you've seen that with some of the thought leadership that has started from security and then moved into other areas. Behavioral analytics is a big thing that started in security and moved to other areas, etc. I'm really a big believer in how these things work together and not work one against each other. Are we successful on a day-by-day basis to do that? Probably not. There's still a lot of room to be better. But I do believe that that's the future for security and for us as well.
Well, you talk about actually usability, user experience, essentially, and certainly PayPal is among those apps and functionality delivered to consumers where the consumer is expecting flexibility and convenience and speed. But again, I mean, what they're accessing and the information that they're sharing is some of the most sensitive information out there. And what's interesting too is I would argue consumers of something like PayPal expect the convenience, demand the convenience, but they also certainly expect you to protect their information. So it's these dueling demands. So how is that managed for a company like PayPal? Like as that innovation process moves along to better serve the user and to improve the user experience, are you along at the same time? Like how does that dynamic work internally?
I think we have to be along at the same time. And there are two things here that are interesting, and I think I'll touch both of them. As we develop, making sure that what we develop is secure, and that the experiences that the customers have in the end are secure, and they are able to enjoy them without fearing that their data will be stolen or their activity will be tracked or that we become a supply chain attack on them, which are all things that interest us, or even that we are available. by the way. I think one of the basic, we talk about an infrastructure of trust. One of the basic things in the infrastructure of trust is being there for our customers when they need us. I think all of those are important, and there is a lot for security to be there, and that's part of accelerating our ability to allow our developers to innovate. I think that there is also what is the security experience that the user gets when they log into PayPal, and how much friction do they actually want to see? Because some people want to feel that things are safe, and there the basic principle I think that we're aiming at is have as little friction as possible. Allow users to flow through a very easy process and an easy experience as much as we can. But in places where people are doing risky things, and places where we identify from a behavioral analysis perspective, or from a lot of work that is being done by our risk and fraud teams and modeling bad behavior, which is probably one of the best data science teams I've ever worked with, be very strict. And I think our users see that. And sometimes they don't like it, but a lot of times they appreciate the fact that we ask them for additional authentication. We ask them some questions about what's happening, because it is unique and it is different than what we're seeing. And if we continue following that path of making it as easy as possible for our users to do what they want to do, but when they get to a risky place, give them that friction, we'll continue that balancing act between serving our users from a usability perspective and serving our users from a risk and fraud or data theft perspective.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I'm just saying that generally as an industry, there is improvement to be had there. I mean, I think we're doing strides towards passwordless experiences more and more, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to see passwords die. We've been an early supporter of the FIDO Alliance, but it's not as ubiquitous as it needs to be, and we're getting there. But I think the industry as a whole needs to get there, and I think that will also help getting rid of passwords. And the password experience is both really risky and problematic from a UX perspective, and that is a win-win that I would call out if we start getting to passwordless. That is a win-win for both security and trust and fraud, and the consumers from a UX perspective.
Absolutely. As a user, I can say absolutely. It's interesting, though, this notion of friction that you bring up, and you and I have talked before, and this came up because there's a bit of a human element that you need to serve, where if it is just so easy that the security is completely in the background, it can raise red flags. I know myself as, a user of some of these, apps, if you breeze on through, you're not necessarily asked certain questions, or there aren't walls that you hit along the way, you're like, this can't possibly be secure, which is not necessarily true. But how do you balance that? Like, is there some friction that you say, no, we probably could get rid of it, but we need just a little bit in there to ensure the user feels assured that we are properly protecting their experience?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm not sure I have a straight answer for that, because human psychology is also very different in different people, and different people expect different things. I can tell you, as a security person, I expect friction. I like to see friction when it's presented to me, but I hear a lot of the people that don't like that as well. If we do the right thing, meaning helping our users go through the process as easily as possible, but still raise those gates where that is needed, I think we build trust with our consumer base, that they know that we're out there to protect them. One thing that the industry should do better is inform people. If we identify something and we let it through, or if we identify something and we haven't let it through, we should inform our users more. And that is also something I think that builds trust. In the end, I like to talk in notions of infrastructure of trust across the board when I talk about how we build services and products, both for employees and platforms within PayPal, but also for our consumers. I think if we build the psychology of trust between the brand that is PayPal, and all of our brands, by the way, and the users, they'll trust us. And that is something that probably doesn't happen in one or two interactions. We need to be very stable in those interactions all the time. And we're very lucky to have a very large customer base that is also more and more interacting with PayPal on a day-by-day basis. And that is a vote of confidence, I think, in some of those decisions that we've made about friction and security and risk. And I hope that that continues.
Yeah. What's interesting about PayPal too is you as a company are among the most imitated among phishing scams. I think you told me, I mean, are you in the top few, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah.
We were always in the top, let's call it top 10. Without going into numbers here, we're still in the top 10.
Yeah. It brings up the point though of trust that you mentioned, because obviously, you know, what is, I guess, the responsibility of PayPal is to do its best to educate, you know, its users and its customers, to have internal processes in place to identify when that sort of incident is gaining access. But it is still sometimes a branding problem, you know, when fraudsters out there are utilizing the PayPal name over and over again. So how do you address that? And in general, how is the phishing challenge addressed for a company like PayPal?
Yeah, I think that, and this is, there are a few views in the ecosystem of that, but I'll give you my view on it. It is our role to identify when people are using our brand for phishing emails or for phishing attacks against our customers, because in the end, it's attacks against our customers. They're trying to get to their PayPal account. And as such, when we identify that, we do all that we can in order to either take down that phishing site or work with our partners, with the browser makers, to make sure that these sites go into the browser block lists for phishing. We share information across the industry on this. And when we identify something that did happen in ATO, account takeover, we do our best to both inform the users and recover that account. So we do a lot in that space to maintain that level of support that we give to our customers. Again, I'll plug it here as well. If you do see a phishing email, our website has the address that you need to use in order to send it to PayPal. And we will take care of it. Somebody in customer service and somebody in my team will get the report, and we'll look at the addresses and we'll do it. And we're getting a lot of input from our customer base on phishing emails that they've seen. And that is great. That is great that we have that kind of interaction. And it's great that we're doing proactive analysis as well. Some people that I've talked to say that it's not the role of the company to protect users against phishing. I disagree. I think that's part of what we need to do in order to, again, build that trust that we have with our customer, that we will do more than others in making sure that we deal with the attacks against them, not just the attacks against our platform. And it's kind of that moral obligation that we have for the industry and the ecosystem.
Interesting.
I will set out what we have seen though in the recent 2 years, ever since COVID hit, is a lot of rampant phishing on IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
And that is sharing with everybody that is listening right now. I think that is one thing that we as an industry need to do better is and this is attacks on our employees, not necessarily on our consumers. We need to make sure that we protect our employees better across the board because it is rampaging right now, and we've seen a lot of different attacks targeting employees and targeting specifically IT infrastructure that we and others use on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and absolutely. True. So one other question I had too is, you know, for a company like PayPal, it is about serving the customers. A lot of that though, there is a partnership aspect to this. You're working with banks, or banking institutions. You're accessing information and networks in that regard. How does that relationship work? You know, security wise, is this, you know, is it a simple regulatory exercise, or is there a closer relationship between PayPal and some of the banking organizations out there?
Yeah, I think that there has to be a closer relationship, just what the regulators are saying. And because in the end, we integrate. in certain points. And it's not just, by the way, it's not just the banks, it's a lot of the third-party partners that we work with, whether it's through the open banking initiatives or in Europe, or the card vendor brands that we work with, or other partners that that we operate a business with. And I go back to my segment on availability. It starts with availability. It's more than just the ability to share information in a secure way. It's is this part of our processing process? If it's part of our processing process, are they up and running and serving us so that we can serve our customers? And so there is a high level of monitoring. There is also a high level of risk analysis that happens with this, especially after the SolarWinds attack of last year. Looking at those kinds of interactions and testing them on an ongoing basis, and making sure that what we're doing is safe and secure, and that we're only passing the data that we need to do, is kind of a baseline requirement at this point in time. It's not even a nice to have. And those relationships in the end have got to happen between people in all of these partners. And I think we build those relations and making sure that we are able to talk to each other when things go bad.
Yeah. So you mentioned too earlier on cryptocurrency. Any thought, and I should say this more generally, a lot is shifting, I feel like, in financial services in terms of technology capabilities, how users are leveraging financial services and accessing this and their demands. Where do you see the future of financial services going? What's the next big innovation, and how does cryptocurrency play into that, if you feel it does?
Yeah, so I can talk to some of the things that we're seeing and we're thinking about. I think that there is two things that are happening. One, if the pandemic taught us anything, is that we're in an inflection point for digital currency and digital experiences across the board. People don't want to handle cash anymore, and I think that digital wallets, digital currencies, blockchain technology or blockchain-based currencies being part of that are definitely going to be the future. We're seeing, our emergence as a super app, the things that we're doing, and with more services, and I'm sure others will do the same, but with more services that are provided by organizations like PayPal, like the our new digital wallet, foray into investment banking, buy now, pay later services, are all things that are starting to get combined into these super apps, and we'll see more and more of those. I think that blockchain technology and the existing crypto coins that we have are part of that. The ability to buy and trade in those assets is really interesting. To a point, I think that PayPal is doing to cryptocurrency what it was always meant to be, because now it's much easier to pay with cryptocurrency, which was really hard before.
Yeah.
And it's not just PayPal, it's others as well that have started accepting cryptocurrency, but the ability to check out almost everywhere and pay with Bitcoin or others, I think that is starting a big transformation, and it's not just an investment asset anymore, but it is now becoming really a payment option. And that is really interesting to see how that moves in the future, and how services like PayPal can help that happen. But also with the stable coins that are sure to come in the near future, and understanding how that starts to operate within the environment, that is also a very interesting process. And when we think about that, I think that from a security perspective, there is a lot of risk modeling that is kind of new to us, because we're used to being a company that does X. We used to be in a bank or in a peer-to-peer money transfer company, or in a checkout kind of scenario. And now we're moving to be peer-to-peer and checkout and a bank and cryptocurrency. And I think we'll need to start understanding there are different risk models and threat models for each one of those verticals, and how do we tie them all together to make sure that we're providing a secure experience for our consumers and for our merchants and partners and everybody else that is part of that process. And that's going to be really interesting to see. I'm happy to be part of it. It's really interesting for me to drive some of this in PayPal. But I think as a financial services ecosystem, that's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it and what kind of security innovation comes out of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether financial services can lead the assurance of security within that new domain, because I think it's a little up in the air, and I think there's some concerns on how you do make it secure. So it's interesting watching how the financial services sector is actually handling that, because you have to figure that's going to trickle down to other sectors as well.
Yeah, and regulators are coming in as well. If you look at what we've done with the New York Department of Financial Services, for example, on cryptocurrency, we did not publish our cryptocurrency capability until we got the license from them. And I think that's one of the first times where a company actually did that and got a license from a regulator that is tied specifically to cryptocurrency. I think regulators are going to swarm this environment really, really soon. And we like that. By the way, we like to get that challenge from our regulators, because I think it makes us better as an industry. So that will also be interesting to see how companies deal with that as that happens.
Absolutely, groundswell. Well, thank you, Asaf. This has been a terrific conversation. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Really happy to be here, and I hope you all have a great conference.
Yes, thank you very much. And I do encourage everybody, stick around. We have another session coming right up after this one, and this will be available on demand. So if you want to listen back again, please do so and share it with colleagues. Thank you all. More to come.